Welcome back, everyone, to the Sports Frenzy podcast. Dean Holzwarth, Andy McDonald, our News 8 sports correspondents, joining us once again. Gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here. Every single week we have a lot to talk about, and we continue that tradition again today. First off, I want to talk about the LPGA Classic that happened over the weekend. You both were out there covering it. I mean, we had a lot of coverage. It was an awesome time. Thankfully, the weather held off a little bit, so we were able to finish all the rounds.
Yes.
It was just an incredible end to really an awesome weekend out there.
Yeah, no, it was. I was there all 4 days, and for all the rain that was in the forecast, it never really came about. So it wasn't an issue at all. But yeah, it was great. The standings were tight all the way through. A lot of times on moving day, like on Saturday, we usually are kind of, we're looking for people to shoot almost, because sometimes the standings aren't that close. The whole entire day, it was like somebody's going to be tied for the lead. It ended up being 6 of them. We're tied at -11 going into that final day. So it was pretty awesome. And then obviously Saganda is the one who won the entire thing. She's had 3 top 10 finishes in her last, I think she's been in it now since 2016 was her first event. And in 2016, when she competed in it, she lost in a playoff hole, and that was the closest she's came to winning it until now. And at age 35, she's the average winner in the LPGA this year so far has been 24. So it was kind of cool to see her get the job done with all these years that she's been close. She's had every year, it seems like for at least part of the weekend, she's in the top 10. And to be able to get the job done this time around was pretty special. But the crowds were great again. A lot of people there. At Sunday was a great atmosphere once again. Obviously, the weather this weekend would have been a lot more brutal, so it would have been interesting to see if that would have happened. It's just been so much hotter outside, but they were blessed with great weather all the way through. And it was just a lot of fun to watch. And this shot you guys are watching right now was probably one of the shots of the day. Just absolutely pinned it close there on 17. She birdied that while Choi bogeyed it, and that kind of separated them. They were both in the same group, and she was able to win it with a score of -16 to end it. She shot 267s and 269s in the weekend, so pretty impressive.
Right. I was going to say, ending the tournament with a 67 and avoiding another potential. I mean, the drama probably would have been pretty good for another year of a playoff. But I know Saganda's probably pretty glad to avoid that and finally take home the Classic Championship.
Yeah, it definitely it looked like Lexi Thompson was going to have a chance too, like most of the day.
Yeah. I was going to talk about Lexi a little bit too. Obviously, I was out there on Friday, saw Andy out there. And I had a chance to talk to Lexi Thompson after the round. And she's just super welcoming. Like, tell you what, of all the tournaments and through all the years she's played, like she really, I felt like really enjoyed coming to Grand Rapids for this tournament. And obviously she played very well. She was in the hunt the whole time, like Andy said, and she gave herself a chance to win there in the final round. So, but yeah, she brought up her dog for the post round interview after that. But no, I thought she was very fun to talk to, and like I said, she loves this tournament, and she's. Who knows? Maybe she'll come back next year, on her part-time schedule. But no, when I was out there, at least the crowds were, pretty well, obviously bigger on the weekend. But just to have that six-way tie going into Sunday, that had to be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Lexi definitely had a great chance. I mean, she was leading at -14. I think it was through 10 holes. So it kind of was like, oh my gosh, is this really going to happen after she lost in the playoff hole last year? But she ended up bogeying 3 of her final 4 holes, so that kind of ended up costing her the weekend. It was just Saganda went out and won it. I mean, she birdied, I think it was 8, 9, and 10 all in a row, and then to end it, she birdied 2 out of 3 times. So yeah, just had a great finish, and it was hard to compete with that with some of the shots she was putting together.
An awesome weekend. We're so glad that West Michigan was able to host a tournament of this magnitude once again and put on a really great show that really all ended really up until the final hole, really just all the way up until the very end of the tournament. Really anybody could have won. It was anybody's really game, especially going into that final day with 6 people tied.
I had more people asking me to like friends and family that were just there, asking me to say hi throughout the weekend because they knew I was there than probably ever before. So I think that kind of explains how much it's really grown. People want to go to this event. They want to be a part of it and they want to see what it's all about. And I haven't gotten bad reviews from anybody yet. So it's definitely something to check out if you haven't done it yet.
Definitely. All right. Well, again, we do have tons more coverage of the Meyer LPGA Classic that took place last weekend. You can find it right now over on our website, woodtv.com. Let's shift gears a little bit now and start talking about some hockey. The NHL season is officially over. The Florida Panthers have now gone back-to-back Stanley Cup championship wins. They defeated the Edmonton Oilers once again again in 6 games. Gentlemen, what would you really make of that final game and really the series in general, where Florida had a couple of tough games, but honestly seemed to be in control the entire series?
They did. Did we all take Edmonton?
Yes. I
Okay,
did.
we did.
Yeah.
So obviously we
Regret that decision now.
Yes. That we did not predict that one right. I'll tell you what. I really thought after game, was it 4? When Edmonton came back from the 3-goal deficit to
Right.
win in overtime, I thought that was going to propel them. And then you look at the next couple games, and they just fell flat, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, Florida was just better, and Florida was a team with no superstars. They played together. I think they got a chance last year to know, what it took to win a Stanley Cup championship, and you could see that in the finals. That they were the more prepared team. They came out and scored 2 goals in the first period in every single game. So they came ready to play, and they put Edmonton on their heels. And Edmonton, with their 2 big names, they just couldn't recover from that.
Yeah, no, I mean, they don't have any names that are huge, I guess, but after the last 2 playoffs, Sam Reinhart has definitely started to make a name for himself, and the 4 goals last night was definitely the highlight of all that. It's hard to not give him a lot of the credit, but I think Sam Bennett deserves a lot of credit, too. He had 15 goals in the playoffs, which is absolutely incredible. He wasn't even a 30-goal scorer in the regular season, so to be able to put that together just says a lot. But, yeah, I mean, it just felt like this year with the Oilers, it just kind of had to happen, and I felt like they were going to be able to get over the hump. And obviously, a lot of those games went to overtime. We kind of kept talking about how Edmonton had to come back in those games. They had to keep putting together these runs, which they've done throughout the season. But that's no way to live. You're not going to win a lot of games when you have to do that constantly. And they just kept doing it over and over again. And Florida's the team that knows how to win. They get ahead early, they hold their leads, and they prove once again they're just the best team in the NHL. And it really. As a Red Wings fan, if you're looking at it right now, it's like that's who it goes through.
Yeah.
They've won it 2 years in a row. I mean, they're not a dynasty yet, but they're on their way to making themselves one if they keep playing at this height. And it's just like you kind of think about what they have on their team compared to what Detroit has, and they have a long way to go. So it's been impressive what they've been able to do, and I don't know who's going to take them out right now because things are probably going to start to get a little hairy right now for Edmonton with another loss. And at this time, I think Connor McDavid handled his press conference great last night, all things considered. So we'll see what happens with them. But definitely a very, very impressive series for Florida to be able to just kind of shut everything down when Florida wants it that bad. I mean, Corey Perry's 40 years old, and he's still out there. He still hasn't won a Stanley Cup, and he's given it all he has. So I don't think it's anything about youth or anything like that they need more of. Maybe goaltending is the issue, but I don't think it's Connor McDavid or Draisaitl. I just think that right now they got to figure out how to win like Florida knows how to.
I was going to ask, and you kind of touched on it, Andy, though. I mean, Florida just being so dominant, not just these past 2 years, but really kind of leading up to it in the NHL. I mean, Andy, you're saying that you don't view them as a dynasty. Dean, do you kind of share that sentiment? I mean, I think once you kind of win 2 in a row and you are frequently in the playoffs, you kind of have a right to at least stake your claim to potentially be one.
Yeah, were you saying they weren't going to be a dynasty, or they were?
I think that they can be. I think
they can be.
Right at this very moment,
Yeah.
though, I'm saying.
I think it all depends.
I definitely think they can be. Right?
Yeah.
They have all
You
the
wouldn't call
pieces.
them one right now.
I mean, the
though.
state of Florida is a dynasty if you want to go that far.
Right,
What Tampa's
honestly.
done too. I like Tampa Bay. They were a dynasty. There's no way you can deny that with how many times they competed for it and were there. I don't think they need to win 3 in a row or anything to be like that, but maybe just make the playoffs a couple more years and kind of compete at least to be there. I mean, right now, again, I just don't know if anything's even going to stop them. They might win 3 in a row with the way they've been playing. Like
it could be the makings of a dynasty.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that always kind of changes. That's a whole other debate, and we don't need to get into that topic for that long. But really quickly, it's just like with a dynasty, it's like it kind of changes, I think, by the sport.
Right.
Like some sports are just different than others. Like I think the most interesting question that I kind of thought of today when I was thinking about this topic is like, are the Chiefs already a dynasty in football? Like, do you guys think that?
Yes. I would say so, yes.
Right. So
I think you just, as long as you're in that AFC championship range, at least in that, I mean, you've got to at least stake your claim to it.
So then, like a more local angle, I would ask you, Dean, from like before my time, is like the Bad Boy Pistons.
Wow.
Like, was that a dynasty or was it not?
I don't think it was because they only won 2. They won back to back, and they weren't really that relevant before that.
Yeah.
And they even, I thought the 2004 team with Chauncey and Tayshaun and Ben and Rashid and all them, that could have been. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals 7 years in a row.
It's crazy.
So like that could have been, but then they only got to the finals, 3 times.
Yeah.
Twice
Sure.
or 3 times, whatever it was. That had the makings of one, but no, I don't think that was.
So that's it for me, basically, with Florida.
Yeah,
I just
right.
think they need to make it to the playoffs a couple more times and maybe make some more deep runs. Maybe get to the Stanley Cup at least one more time and lose it. or win
they've been there
but
3 times.
Either way,
They lost to Vegas.
Yeah.
The first time they went, and then
so it's hard to, if somebody wants to argue it, I totally get the argument. But yeah, maybe just a little bit more with at least being in the playoffs for a couple more years.
Yeah,
right. Then I would definitely call one.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But kind of shifting now back over to the Oilers sort of point of view in all this. Again, another year where a team from Canada has not been able to hoist the Stanley Cup. We touched on it when the series first got going. I mean, we all picked Edmonton to win. We all thought that they were going to finally break that pattern. But now that they've lost again, I mean, do we ever see, at least in the next couple of years, next 5-10 years maybe, a Canadian team possibly winning the Stanley Cup? Or is this really kind of the end for it?
You put together this roster and they don't win it,
Yeah.
you start to think, like, is it really that big of a jinx? I mean, that's like us in Michigan can definitely relate to that with the Lions, not making the playoffs and not winning the Super Bowl for so long, even when they have this team that they have right now and everything that happened in the 49ers game, like all that, it just feels like it's impossible, right? I'm sure that's how all the Canadian fans feel right now that are watching their hockey teams, because Canada's obviously such a prideful country for hockey. It's like to not be able to hoist one in that amount of time is just absolutely crazy. So I'm sure for them it feels like never, but I do think if this group sticks together in Edmonton that much longer, eventually they have to get one. At some point, they're one of the odds-on favorite already for next year to do it again, obviously. Yep. I think if they fix a couple of things, they could definitely do it. But yeah, I look around at the rest of the teams over there. Maybe Toronto, I guess, would be another team that you could argue is close, but I'm sure their fans feel like there's absolutely no way they can do it after what happened again this year. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think sooner or later they have to break through, right? Like you said, they're going to get over the hump at some point. And if these last 2 Stanley Cup final losses don't kind of motivate them to either do some things in the offseason and find a way to win in the playoffs and win it at all, then I don't know what else you can say.
Right. Yeah, no, well, we're going to be going on 28 years since the Montreal Canadiens hoisted the cup back in 1993. So, again, just have to wait and see, I guess. Switching now over to the other championship finals that is going on right now. Game 6 in the NBA Finals is set for Thursday night between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. Oklahoma City now 1 win away from hosting or winning their first championship since they were the Sonics all the way back in Seattle back in the 70s. I really want to focus on the Tyrese Halliburton angle of this. Obviously struggled a lot in Game 5. I think he only finished with did he even?
Sorry, he didn't make a field goal.
Zero field goals, but
field goals.
I think he only had like 4 or 5 points. Obviously dealing with that calf injury. We're seeing reports now that the Pacers are already planning to not have him for Game 6. If Halliburton doesn't suit up, this series is over, right?
Yes. This series is over.
Yeah.
Like I do think he's played so well throughout these playoffs, right? He's had to shoulder so much of the load at times throughout this playoffs, and he's made some great shots. And I just think we're at the point where, obviously he's been dealing with it the entire series, and obviously he's been kind of gutting it through. But I think, I think he will play. I think what I read today was, they're going to prepare for him to play. They're going to prepare for him not to play. So I think when you're a competitor, this is the NBA Finals. I think he's going to give it a go in Game 6 and see how it feels. Because if he doesn't play, I don't even though they're in Indiana, I don't think they stand a chance, and Oklahoma City will win their first NBA title.
Yeah, no, it's tough to say that they would if he doesn't play, but that's again kind of what we went back to. We talked about Halliburton getting defended and kind of getting taken out of the series a little bit by OKC. It's like somebody else has to step up in his position. It's really hard to fill those shoes when their depth just isn't like as deep as OKC's is. Obviously, what Jalen Williams was able to put together the other night, scoring 40 points. I mean, that's one of those things where it's like when it's not just SGA. Obviously, Jalen was able to put together that performance and score 40. So they have players that seem to be able to make up sometimes when maybe their best player isn't doing it. Obviously, Halliburton still played in that game. If he doesn't play in Game 6, who's picking up what he does on the court?
I'll tell you who.
Indiana?
I'll tell you who.
Who is that?
TJ McConnell.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's had a great series.
He's going to get lots of minutes, obviously, and they might need a 30-point game from him if they want to extend the series, kind of like Jalen Green. But, would it be likely? I don't know. But he's obviously, like you said, Phil, he's had a great series. The last few games he's played really well. But he might be the one who gets the most minutes in Halliburton's absence. and then see what happens.
Sometimes you get that motivation, like it can change everything for you. So obviously they probably want to do it for Tyrese with all the big moments he's given him throughout the playoffs. But yeah, it's hard to imagine. I mean, I have felt like OKC's been the better team like this entire time.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like I don't really see a way that it goes over at this point. But I mean, when the Pacers started coming back the other night, it was kind of like, gosh, is this going to really happen
same.
again?
It went from
Like
18 points down to 2.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It's just like you can never count that team out. They're just that good.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think that, obviously a lot of us, even before the season started, probably could have expected or wouldn't be surprised if OKC ended up in the finals. Indiana, they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last year, but I personally did not think that they were going to make it to the finals. I didn't even think that they would be able to beat the Bucks in the first round and manage to do that. So this is obviously a great season for them. But you got to think they were up 2-1 with home court advantage and have lost the last two games and are now facing elimination. That's got to feel a little draining for the Pacers.
Yeah, I think a little bit. Despite the fact that Oklahoma City had game 1. In the bag, right?
Yeah, right.
Like they kind of outplayed Indiana. So you can look at that way. Like obviously Halliburton hit the shot to win it. So I do think Oklahoma City has outplayed Indiana to this point, and I think Indiana was fortunate to have that 2-1 lead. And Oklahoma City's just done enough in the fourth quarter of these past couple games to win them and obviously put themselves on the brink of an NBA title.
yeah, just as a fan base, I mean, it's just one of those things where Indiana hasn't been there in a while to do it. It's obviously pretty devastating when you start to think about that lead that you had. I think, with a lot of teams in Detroit, they haven't won a championship in a while. They can relate to that here. So, it's a tough situation for them to be down right now, but I'm sure that the players are going to give it their all and try to go out there and get it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's enough talk about the NBA Finals again. Game 6 is happening on Thursday night. Let's talk about baseball now. Switch over to the Tigers and just kind of what's been going on with them. They've 6-4 in their last 10 games going into tonight against the Pittsburgh Pirates. They recently had to deal with some issues in the Cincinnati Red Series. That was their first series loss since May 24th against the Cleveland Guardians. So, again, we talked a little bit about their struggles last week. It seems to me that there are still some lingering issues with this team, despite how good they are. I mean, they're still only 3 games away from having 50 wins already before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
But it just feels like, maybe teams are starting to catch on that and maybe taking the Tigers a little bit more seriously.
Absolutely, no doubt about that. I mean, Ellie De La Cruz was a one-man wrecking crew for the Reds this past weekend. But yeah, what we've kind of talked about a lot, the bullpen has a lot of issues. Obviously, they were pretty good against the Pirates last night, but the Pirates don't exactly hit the ball well. So yeah, it's just I think that they have a lot of. They can obviously sigh a little bit of a relief with Will Vest. Looked like he might have been hurt and heading towards the IL, but it seems like he's going to avoid that now at least. Obviously, those things can get re-aggravated, and who knows what's going to happen from there. But yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things right now where it's like it feels like this team is going to let you down sometimes. What's funny is you say they're 6-4 in their last 10. If you would have told me coming into the season that was going to be like something that was a problem, I would have told you were crazy. So I try to put things in perspective with what they really are. It's like this is 70 games. This isn't like a small sample size. That they are that good of a team, and the attitude that AJ has instilled with them, with no matter what happens the day before, they come out and play completely different the next day. I think you saw that again last night. They've took the lead early in that Pittsburgh game, then fell behind 3-2. They easily could have got down about it, and instead they jack some balls out of the park and they take the game. So Javi Baez with 2 more home runs. He's getting considered for an All-Star game. So yeah, it's I don't really worry about this team that much, but they definitely need to make moves at the deadline. I think it went from they need it's something that you would want to this is urgent now. They have to add to that bullpen if they want to be competitive in the playoffs. They will not win pulling people. I mean, Matt Manning is probably the next option. He's been switched to the bullpen down in AAA. If that's the next option, I'm not confident in them winning in the playoffs. So they definitely got to look for something to add to this team that's probably not in their organization right now for the first time in a while.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, the bullpen is a cause of concern at times. Reese Olson is close to getting back.
Yep.
But guys, despite that, the Tigers extended their lead in the American League Central. They're as of today, they're 9.5 games ahead because all the other teams have been struggling. Cleveland, Kansas City, Minnesota, they've all kind of fallen off. So even though the Tigers have been pedestrian, they're still extending their lead, and they're still one of the best teams in baseball. You look at it right now. The Yankees. If you guys go into any series with the Tigers, honestly think you're going to lose the series? Like, is there any team that scares you? Because to me, there isn't a team. Even the Yankees, we've beaten every team, or most teams in the series, except for obviously the Reds. But like, no team to me scares me right now. Like, I feel like the Tigers can go out and win every single game.
Yeah, if they're healthy with their starting pitching too, I think that's a huge thing for me. If they're injured like they are and banged up like this going to the playoffs, so that'd be a whole different story. I think they even need to explore that market as well at the trade deadline, just because it's a little thinner than it looks. And we've seen Alex Cobb's videos of the Whitecaps. He doesn't look exactly healthy, so
It wasn't great.
I wouldn't rely on that being the option that you're going to have for another starter with Jackson Jobe getting Tommy John. That's definitely a market they're going to have to explore as well. But I agree with you. This team just finds a way to win series no matter what. No matter who they play against, they find a way to do it. So it's hard to doubt them right now. The Dodgers and their star power still scare me a little bit if it came down to the World Series, but that's why you add at the deadline and try to make your team better. So we'll see. I mean, this is you couldn't draw it up for Scott Harris to have a better situation, but at the same time, this is probably maybe the biggest deadline that he's going to have like in his time here. Who knows? So
Well, you saw Alex Lang last night. For the Whitecaps,
Yep,
he's pretty
for
good.
sure.
Lots of swing and misses. So he looked pretty good.
That is another organizational option that'd be great if he can come back and be what he was like 2 years ago. So we'll
100%.
see.
Yeah, no, definitely something to keep an eye on. And Andy, you kind of hit it on the head. 6-4 seems kind of shocking given what the Tigers have done already. But going into the season, you'd be happy with 6-4 through 10 games. Probably.
I mean, absolutely.
20 games over 500.
Yeah, no. I mean,
They still have
come
the
on.
number one record in the entire majors. So
Despite a little scuffling. That happens in baseball, right?
we have to nitpick here, though.
there's no-
They're not going to win every game, guys.
Yeah, right.
there's no gripe, but it's just like one of those things where like you see the writing on the wall sometimes, I think. And like, I don't think if this team, if you put this roster right now they have with the injuries in the playoffs, I don't think I would take them to win the World Series. Like they have to get healthy, and I think they have to add to it. That's all. It's like
100%.
Like what they did to start the season was incredibly impressive. But I mean, at this point, you're 9.5 games up this late in June. If we're talking again in August, September, and they're not and they're not going to win the Central. Yeah, then we're going to have a lot of problems, I guess.
Right.
But obviously the things completely went off the rails. I don't think there's any signs that are pushing that right now, but they definitely need to get healthy and they need to make moves. That's just what it is for me.
Yep.
Definitely. And Andy, I also want to give you credit for your Dylan Dingler calls.
Thank you.
Throughout the season.
He makes one good throw.
That was one of the
One.
craziest
No, I'm
throws
I'm
I've
kidding with
ever
you.
seen.
That was
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
He's been doing it time and time again.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not like a one-off thing. He's
No.
been doing it for the entire season.
Baez
It's
never moved his
incredible.
glove.
Yeah.
He never literally moved
Didn't
his
need
glove.
to.
You
Yeah.
get the best like tagger in the game, a weird thing to be good at, but he's great at tagging somebody out at second base. And you got this guy who's just throwing absolute dots right in front of the base. Like it's been really impressive. But yeah, what he does with the bat too is just so impressive. I mean, Cal Raleigh has the starting position locked up in the All-Star game, but like I don't understand how Dylan Dingler doesn't make it with the stats right now. Like it would be completely popularity vote that pushes him out and doesn't get him there. So yeah, I think he has earned that spot unless he absolutely tanks like the last, I don't know, what is it, 15 to 20 games. He'll probably play him before the All-Star break.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening the way he's been hitting the ball. Nobody's been able to figure him out yet. So
Yeah. Phil, if he has a good game, you're waking up the next morning. In our group
I'm getting the
text,
highlight
in a
text,
group
the
text
tweets.
with something from Andy.
it
It happened this morning.
I see it come across my feed. I'm like, I gotta send this to them right now. I have to because I mean, I was
loves
getting
it.
laughed
Spreading
at
the
a little bit when I
propaganda.
brought it up at first.
He loves it.
which is understandable
You were.
because nobody really knows who he is or whatever. But I didn't expect him to be this good this year. I'm not gonna act like I expected it. It just has happened. So it's like the same thing with Torkelson, which we were kind of talking about before. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get into the All Stars next
At some point.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like. That for me too is the same thing. I mean, he leads the league at first base in the American League. He leads like he's in the top 2 of like 6 major categories. He leads in doubles. He's second in OPS. Like all these stats, and he's still 4th in the voting list. That's that's the kind of thing where it just seems like it's completely a popularity contest when you got this guy putting up these kind of stats. I mean, the one thing is his batting average. It's not as high as you probably would like it to be.
Right.
But when you're still getting on base and you're hitting in runs, I mean, he has 16 home runs, which is first among first basemen in the AL. How can you argue that? He has had so many big hits. I mean, driving in runs, he's second. Home runs, he's first. Those 2 things alone right there, that's 2 of the biggest stats you can think of in the game right now. So
Lots of voting to
Yeah.
come.
Yeah, that's. I guess maybe it's
First week.
more for the Tigers fans to make the votes and get in there and do the clicks. So
Yeah, no, this is our call out to all the fans out there to start voting for some of these
Start
guys.
voting for the Tigers.
I mean, I always look back at what was it, 2015 or 16 when the Royals won the World Series. They had like 6 or 7 starters in that team.
Yeah.
From their roster, and they're not like a popular team that everybody pays attention to.
Yeah.
So that it can be done. Like I mean, Gleyber Torres is the only one leading right now.
Yep.
So
which is surprising,
yeah.
but definitely, again, it's early voting. We'll hopefully get a better idea in the weeks to come, and we'll be breaking that all down and just kind of giving everybody our picks on who should be heading to Atlanta for the All-Star break.
get my guy Zach McKinstry there.
Yeah, see,
vote
exactly.
him in. That's my guy going back to CMU. So vote him in.
Do you
That's
guys
my
do you guys
request.
think there's any locks besides maybe Tarek Skubal?
I mean, I think Riley Green and Gleyber Torres will both make the game.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, they're making the game. I can't see a way they don't. Riley Green's name started to just get popular last year. That's a big one. But if I had to predict it, unfortunately, my guy Dylan Dingler, I don't think is gonna make it. I think Torkelson will end up getting that 3rd spot. I think he'll get voted in there just because even if you want the name recognition, like his story of he was gonna get cut and then he comes out and is this guy that's leading in all these stats at first base in the AL this year. I don't understand how that isn't a good enough story if you want a storyline. I don't think that should matter anyway, but that seems to be what it is. If it does, what better storyline is there than what he's been able to do for this team?
Dean, any locks on the Tigers you think are?
I think
headed to
Gleyber
Atlanta?
Torres, right?
Yeah.
He's been to a couple All-Stars before.
Yeah.
He's leading, a lot of categories for second baseman. So
He deserves it.
and he does deserve it. So yeah, and obviously Skubal's going to make it. But yeah, I'm becoming a Dylan Dingler fan just because of Andy's.
Yeah.
right?
What about Will
So-
Vest? Your guy Will Vest.
Oh, Will,
if he stays out there.
I'm still with Will Vest. Yes, 100%. I still think he's going to make it. And that was a scare, obviously, with him leaving the game. I'm glad it wasn't anything serious because it was reported that it could be.
Yeah.
So glad it wasn't anything serious. So yeah, I do think Will Vest.
That sucks
yes.
for him because of his like finger going numb in that inning. He obviously
Yeah,
threw a wild
that's
pitch.
scary.
And
Yeah.
it ran his ERA up a little bit more, and it's like he's not one of those popular. If you would have kept his ERA, or if you can get it back down to being as low as it was before the break, it's like how can he make it? He's been so dominant at the end of the back end of the bullpen. Even Tommy Kahnle probably deserves a look. Like I think he's given up like 1 run in his last 20 appearances or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And
he's been playing well.
There's that article that my guy Evan Petzold for the Free Press put out there about how he shaves his body if he gives up a run, like everything on his body. That's absolutely crazy. It's one of the craziest things I've ever heard.
Yeah. We need more crazy baseball players out there.
Right.
All right, awesome. Well, let's shift gears now down a few levels to the West Michigan Whitecaps. Obviously, the big storyline from last week that we kind of previewed a little bit here was the fact that the Whitecaps had a chance to already clinch a playoff berth just halfway through the season, and they were able to do that this past weekend. Super awesome, the fact that this is a team that has struggled for so many recent years, and now we're halfway through the season. They already know that they're going to be making it to the playoffs. I mean, just an awesome turnaround for the Whitecaps.
Yeah, what an accomplishment for this team. We talked about it before. On paper, this team going into the season looked really, really good. And were they going to be able to show it on the field? And they 100% have. I think we all were maybe a little concerned about the Lansing series, but they brought the bats out again, and they've been absolutely dominant on the road. If you look at their last 2 road trips to Dayton and then to Lansing, they have been dominant. Everybody's been hitting. They've been getting solid pitching. So, great job by Tony Capitelli to get this team playing at this high level. And now in September, we get to enjoy, possibly postseason baseball for the Whitecaps and the Tigers. So, yes, like I said, super proud of this team and all the stuff they've had kind of went through this year. The attendance right now for LMCU is one of the best in minor league baseball right now. So people are coming out to watch this team. And, we talked about it a lot. This is a fun team to watch. They have some, prospects who are hopefully going to be in the Detroit Tigers uniform someday. And, like I said, it's just a fun team to watch. And, I'm looking forward to, what they do in the second half, probably without some of their top guys.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last week, like going in, like this team loves playing with each other, like in all these games, these big games, like they had a chance to make the playoffs and do that. It definitely mattered to them. Like it did not matter. So, I mean, I feel like sometimes these levels, like when you're not close enough, you don't really care about your wins or losses, more about your personal stats, like definitely in some situations. And this team wanted to win. They wanted to get there. So it was pretty awesome to see, and awesome to see them clinch it. And the way that they did it just so dominantly. And I love it.
Was
like
it 20-4 or something like that?
Yeah.
In the game?
Yes. It was insane, like what they were able to do. I mean, and the guy that led the charge with all the RBIs was Kevin McGonigal, the guy who was hurt. kind of to start the season and had to miss about a month's worth of time. Comes back and is hitting 412 in his 21 games. Absolutely outstanding how good he's been able to be. And those guys all know they're going to get moved up here probably pretty soon at some point. And that's just the reality of the situation, but I don't think they'll ever forget what they did here in West Michigan.
Yeah, no, and it's great to see that this team who had so many expectations going into the season kind of matched them and, again, clinched that playoff berth finally for them. But that does beg the question. You guys both kind of touched on it. Just the guys that have made up this team and have been the stars, they may not be here much longer. I mean, now that they have already clinched, I mean, do you expect them to move up a little bit faster now? Now that the team has a spot in the playoffs and these guys can now get some other league experiences a little bit.
I think so. We've kind of seen what they've done in West Michigan, and now, let's give them opportunity to see what they can do at the next level.
Yep.
And I think that's what kind of the process is with Max Clark and McGonigal and Briseno. I think those are the three guys that you will see move at the same time. I don't know how that's going to shake out. But I don't think we will see. I don't believe we'll see any of those three in September in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no way. I mean, they're playing too good. At some point, it does matter more what they are going to do at the MLB level, right? So they got to start moving up the ranks and got to start hitting against some of that pitching in AA. Yep. Sometimes even AA is like the tougher level to get through than AAA because a lot of those players are like 4A players. So you can find out a lot what somebody does in AA, and I got to imagine they want to get some of those guys like Briseno, Clark, McGonigal. They want to see them what they can do at that level. So yeah, I would expect in the near future, unfortunately, that's going to happen. So again, they're playing at LMCU ballpark this week. Get out there and watch them play because it's not going to last too much longer. Probably.
Yeah. No. While you still can, and again, I mean, the home games have been so much fun. They've been so dominant throughout the year. They've been playing great. LMCU ballpark is a beautiful ballpark to go to. So again, just too many reasons not to go to a game this summer.
For sure.
Bring your sunscreen this weekend, though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we're expecting
and your
90s
little mist fans
here.
or whatever.
Yeah,
it's gonna be hot.
No, it's definitely going to be hot out there for sure. I mean, did any of you guys get the chance to see that banana ball stuff there?
I did not. I saw some clips.
Either.
It looked like fun. I've been following, kind of keeping up with the Savannah Banana since they really got going, and to see it just how popular it's become. I went to Meyer Gardens on Saturday. There were people at Meyer Gardens wearing Savannah Bananas jerseys.
That's insane.
That I know that they picked up at the game on Friday. So just crazy to see just how popular it is. So glad that they were able to make it out to Michigan.
I think it's like very entertaining.
Yes.
Maybe I'm too much of a baseball purist. I just don't understand what's going on out there. I don't know what I know it's like a scheduled thing that goes from like 7 to like 9 is what it was this past weekend. So I'd be interested to see how it all plays out and actually like watch a game, I guess, whatever they are. So.
I'd like to do. I think you compare it to the Harlem Globetrotters,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, it feels like that,
I used to go to that when I was a little kid and took my daughters, and I think that's what you kind of compare it to, right? It's not basketball, but it's obviously a fun take on basketball, and you're keeping the fans entertained the whole time.
Yeah.
So
you get people into it that probably aren't into it at all. So
Exactly,
that's a good way to do it.
And there was a lottery to get tickets, and so like Phil said, the popularity of this thing is crazy.
Yeah, like they sold out Angel Stadium earlier this year.
Right.
It was at. I mean, I guess it was only the party animals.
The party
or
animals
they are that
like,
were here this
It was
weekend,
like their minor
so.
league team.
Yeah.
For sure. So whatever. So it was still cool because it looked like every seat was full there, and I had plenty of people that I heard went to it. So
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Before we go, we do have a little bit of time left. And Dean, I have questions for you. Obviously, the big high school soccer championships were this past weekend as well. You were out covering them. 4 teams from West Michigan were able to claim state titles. I mean, just an incredible weekend for soccer.
It was great. Like for me, obviously, girls soccer, all of my daughters have played travel soccer. My oldest is at Aquinas. And so girls soccer has been a part of my life for the past 12 years. So I follow it closely. I was at Michigan State covering baseball, actually, for the MSAA this past weekend, but I was making sure I was keeping track of all the soccer teams. Division I, we had Byron Center, John Conlon, longtime coach. He took East Kentwood boys to the state championships back in the day, comes to Byron Center, does the same thing, first ever one. It's kind of funny as all 3 of these teams in Division I, II, and III, my middle daughter, Addie, has travel soccer teammates. So teammates on those teams. So she was down there as well to watch Byron Center win. One of her best friends, Jaden Glover's on that team. It was exciting for me to be able to see that. Byron Center, what was crazy was they won 5 games in the postseason or in the tournament run by a score of 1-0. And they only allowed 2 goals the entire state tournament. So our defense was really, really good. Division II, Unity Christian, they became the first team ever to win 13 state championships in girls soccer.
That's crazy.
Passing Bishop Foley, who had 12. And they also tied, I think, for the most appearances in the state title game with 17. So yeah, Unity Christian has just been the perennial powerhouse for years now. Randy Heatheist does a great job over there. And what was surprising of that game, you get to the state championship game, you expect a low-scoring game. It was 7-0 over New Boston. So they were just absolutely dominant. They became like the 5th team, I think, in MSSAA history to go unbeaten on the season. They finished 20 wins, 2 ties. Sorry. So yeah, just an unbelievable performance by them. And then you go to Division III. Catholic Central won their first ever state title. 2 of my daughter's best friends are on that team. And once again, they won 2-0. They made a great tournament run. And it's funny with Catholic Central, they had 8 losses during the regular season, and they were still able to, kind of get through a grueling Division III schedule and line up there to get that state title. And then Division IV Kalamazoo Christian was able to. So all 4 teams from this side of the state were able to win state championships, which hasn't happened in a very, very long time. It just kind of shows the talent that's on this side of the state.
I was able to cover a few of these games like throughout the playoffs. Unity Christian was the team that really, really stood out to me. Like it's like when it comes to this level of soccer, it's such a tough sport to be good at. I feel like you can really tell when like they're good at it. They were good. Like their passes, like the way they were trying to line things up, I was just like, wow, they're impressive. So it doesn't surprise me they were able to get the job done again. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, congratulations goes out to all the teams that not only competed, but ended up winning, brought back the hardware here to West Michigan. Couldn't be happier about that. All right, that is going to wrap things up for us today on this edition of the Sports Frenzy podcast with Dean and Andy. Thank you both so much for stopping by, and we will see you guys again next week.